introductory email or the sign-up sheet or the supervision sign-up sheet or the roster, go ahead and come ask me your questions.
Hey, this is problem solving time. No, this is a good thing.
Okay, good.
Just let me know. I'm gonna finish working something and I think probably.
Let's get the ball rolling again. I just want everyone to stand up real quick. Like just stand. Let's just stretch. Stretch your arms up really high. Bend to one side. Bend to the other side. Let's do some shoulder rolls. Forward. Backwards. Let's do some neck rolls. Let's get your body moving. Let's do some like dancing line kicks. We're not. Just shake it off.
Oh no!
If I could sing for you, I would, but you'd probably all quit. Alrighty. So, moving forward, you can take your seat again. Alright, so in the momentum test, chapters 6 and 7, these are the concepts. So developing academic strengths, time management, study habits. These are this is the kind of content that if you aren't already addressing it prior, we definitely want you to address it by meeting number 3, so 6 weeks into the semester, our time management and study tips. So in the folder we gave you, there is a time management quiz. So maybe you guys are going to learn something new about yourselves today. So everyone take that quiz. Alright guys. So, I realize that a mentor who is more number adept than me pointed out that there's some errors in the scoring of this, which I will promptly fix before we give it to you as a resource you could potentially use with your mentors or mentees. But how did you all fare? Are most of you really good at time management? Like super excellent? Raise your hand if you did not fail this time management assessment. Oh, thank goodness. If you did fail, that is okay. I can work with you on it, and we'll be happy to do so. I've got Achiever in my top 5, so I'll whip you any shape. Alright, so moving forward, just further discussing time management, now that you kind of have an idea of like where you yourself stand, some more self-awareness. It's a very important aspect of being a mentor, is being self-aware. So time management strategies. Set goals. We went into depth about this, so you guys are ready to go. Prioritize. Personally, this is somewhere where I struggle. Sometimes I'm like, everything is on the to-do list. Well, now I need to figure out what is the most important thing, or what's going to take me the most time that I need to allot for. Manage interruptions. This sometimes can be very difficult to do on a college campus because, like Tori said earlier, you're surrounded by people all the time. You go to the bathroom and there's 3 other girls brushing their teeth. Like, you're never alone. So managing those interruptions can be very difficult. But, turning off your phone or putting it on silent. There's actually an app that you can put on your computer so you can set it during different time frames to not allow you to go on Facebook or Netflix, and it stops at a certain time. So from, I'm going to study from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. and my computer will not allow me to go on Netflix for those 4 hours, which is a great, if you really have no self-control like I do with Netflix, it's a really great tool. Avoiding procrastination. So realizing how you procrastinate. What do? Do you make up things that you need to do, like cleaning your toilet or doing the dishes? Or do you just blatantly oh, well, I'll have time later? There's different kinds of procrastination. And then becoming an active scheduler, whatever that means for you. So chronic list making, having a planner, having an app on your phone. All 3 3 of the above if you're me, those kinds of things. I get such satisfaction from crossing something off the to-do list. If I have that thing in 3 different places, it just triples the satisfaction. All right, so tools, planners, to-do lists, sticky notes. I love sticky notes. Daily, weekly, monthly, or semesterly calendars so you can visualize, like, instead of this arbitrary date, like, oh yeah, I have my biology exam on October 26th. You can see it like, oh my goodness, that's actually only 2 weeks away. I need to study. Mobile apps. I just learned about Wunderlist. I'm kind of exploring it. If you don't know what it is, maybe you can explore it with me, or I can give you a review. You can tell Siri to make reminders for you. So, and this Google site will share access with you today, because I don't think I did that last night. But I have PDF formats of different resources that we have developed. So we have monthly calendars on here. We have a priority list. There's just a sheet on like things to remember when you're doing time management. One of my favorite things that I love doing for myself when I feel like things are getting a little out of control, and I love using with students because it really gives you a clear view of how you're spending your time, is a calendar that has a breakdown of every single hour in a week. There are 168 hours in a week. You have time to do what you need to get done, and if you don't, you need to do some rebalancing of your life. So it starts at 12 a.m. and goes all the way to 11 p.m. And what I like to do is, if I've done this with students countless times, when someone comes in, they're like, I never have time to do anything, and I don't know where I can find the time, I'm so busy. I'm like, okay, well, let's take this, and I just want you to fill this out as your day goes along, and be just honest about it. If you went to Donut Man at 3 a.m. and then watched TV for like 5 hours and then missed your 8 a.m. class, write that down, like no judgment. I just want to see how you're spending your time. I want you to see how you're spending your time. And oftentimes what I've found with myself and with students is you'll get through, Wednesday, and you're like, oh, I have a problem. Or I need to adjust this area of my life. Or maybe instead of watching 5 hours of Netflix a day, I should watch just 1 to decompress. People come to their own realization. So instead of telling someone like, don't do that, you're giving them this tool to self-assess, to become self-aware. And that's what, being a really good mentor is all about. All right, so going back to the presentation. Oh, and then also the calendars we provided, not that like people don't have access to other calendars, but where are you at? Where are you at? Oh. Bear with me. Alrighty. So the calendars that someone made, I did not make these. One of our mentors actually helped me in the May term. They have scripture on them, just encouraging scripture, and I just think that's really great. So these are something that you can give to your mentee, either email them the PDF after you download it or print it out for them if you feel like a visual calendar aid would be good. And then there's just a little encouraging tidbit on there to help them press through. Alrighty, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So, and this comes into, I love this visual. You have got things that are urgent. So this is procrastination, things that are urgent, things that are not urgent, not important, and important. So there's the quadrant of necessity. This is, emergency scenarios. They happen, that's okay. You can recover from it. If you're constantly feeling like you're in this urgent section, you need to sit down and really think about, why do I always feel this sense of urgency? Is what I'm doing, is what I'm spending my time on actually urgent? These are conversations you can have with your mentees. The not important, or the not urgent but important, is the quadrant of quality. This is where you want to strive to spend most of your time and most of your tasks, because it's important, but it isn't pressing. You aren't stressed out about it. It means that you've adequately managed your time. Then you've got the quadrant of deception. So this is like cleaning my dishes when really they could wait another hour or even another day. Like, The dishes, they will always be there, but if I have a deadline that I need to meet that deadline. But deceiving, like lying to yourself about, no, this is urgent, I need to wash the dishes, it's a method of procrastination that some of us can fall into and some of your students may fall into. Interruptions, picking up that text message constantly when you're studying. That is an interruption that is completely unavoidable. Sometimes maybe you're having a text conversation that is urgent. Something's happening with someone and you're talking them through it. Other times it's really not necessary. It's not urgent. You have something more that's important. Don't spend your time in the quadrant of deception. Hopefully you can talk your mentees through not spending their time in the quadrant of deception either. And then you also have the quadrant of waste. So this is Netflix. What else are the kids doing these days? Pinterest, yes. Anything that really it's not urgent and is really not important. It is good to take those times to, take care of you. And that's different than wasting your time. Because if you're wasting your time, ultimately you're not taking care of you, because then you're gonna be in that urgent, important quadrant, living in stress. And that's just gonna cause all sorts of health problems. Ask me about it, I took a class. Alrighty, so, amongst your tables, please talk about which quadrant you think you most operate under during midterms.
What if you
So, just two people, who thinks they never fall, or who thinks they really are in the quadrant of quality almost all of the time? Raise your hands if you feel like you're there. All right, go you. Way in the back. We should all talk to her. Let's learn from Cassandra. So someone who feels like they fall maybe into the quadrant of deception or the quadrant of waste, would you mind sharing why or what that's like or what you're doing, how you try and manage that? Just one person. Yeah, Katie.
I definitely fall into the quadrant of waste a lot, and that was like one of the ways that I dealt with like avoiding homework freshman year. I called it procrastination, but like productive procrastination. Because like I would clean my room and like organize things and like redo my laundry and whatever else I had to do. But it would be anything but the like homework I was supposed to do. But it made me feel better anyways because I was doing something that like looked like I was doing for me. So.
Yeah, I definitely fall there with you quite often. So does anyone have, maybe not Katie, but maybe someone else, if that was your mentee, what would you say in response? And someone who feels like sharing, maybe talking through that. Yes?
I feel like busy work, like doing something like your laundry or dishes or whatever, is good up to a point.
Mm-hmm.
So, because sometimes you do need a break, and you just like can't study anymore mentally. So I just feel like if you set a time limit for yourself, and like realistically, how much do you have left? How much time do you have to like take a break?
That's very good advice. Thank you. All right, so before we move on to the next section, there is another assessment for you to take to become self-aware. It is called the Learning Style Assessment for Visual, Auditory, and Kinesthetic. So please take a couple of moments to do that. All right, guys. So, how many visual learners do we have in the room? Raise your hands, nice and high and proud. Awesome. How many auditory learners do we have in the room? Yeah, me too. And how many kinesthetic learners do we have? Cool, so it's a pretty even split. Do any of you like tie in two categories? Yeah, so what, Kylie, you have not spoken yet today. What two categories did you tie in?
Listening one and
All right, so she said auditory and kinesthetic. Cool. Yeah, so this isn't meant to put you in a box. It's just a tool to help you and help your mentees see, maybe what approach would be best for your class. Because a lot of people come in, they're like, okay, well, I have to make note cards. Note cards are going to help me. That's not necessarily true. If you're an auditory learner, maybe getting an electronic version of your textbook and listening to that as you read it would be a lot more helpful than you then highlighting. Whereas a visual learner, highlighting or doing circles or doodles on the side to help you remember something is going to be more effective. So visual learners learn through seeing, pictures, diagrams, demonstrations, displays, handouts. They perform a task after reading instructions or watching someone else do it, and they use lists and written directions. Is that pretty accurate for the visual learners in the room? Does it seem, yeah, see some heads nod. Auditory learners learn through listening to others or self, perform tasks by listening to instructions, and discussion oriented. So study groups, study groups are not for everyone, but if you're maybe more of an auditory learner, it's good for you. Kinesthetic learners learn through physical experience and perform tasks by learning as they go. Does that seem pretty accurate? Yeah. For the kinesthetic learners in the room, is it a good environment for you to be sitting still in the library and studying? No. So that's something, you know that about yourself. So if you...
She's saying no while she's doing it. It's great.
So if you're a kinesthetic learner and your mentee is really struggling in their study habits, this is an assessment that we have for you guys. It's on the Google site that I will be sharing with all of you, can give you access to. And you can have them take this. And if they're a kinesthetic learner, you can be like, hey, sitting still in the library may not be for you. Why don't you, walk on an elliptical while you have your textbook? That really does work for some people. I know people who do that. Or have a stress ball, or even to be doodling while they're just like scribbling on the side. Just that movement alone can help people. So, study tips, like I was just saying, closing eyes and visualizing information, highlighters, illustrations, study in places that are free of visual distractions is really important. So, having a lot of people moving around or having a screen somewhere, that quiet corner in the library is probably really good for a visual learner, whereas it wouldn't be for a kinesthetic learner. For auditory learners, these are the people who are probably asking some of the most questions or seem to be talking too much in classes because that's how they learn. They're external processors sometimes, or they just need to hear the information again. Record class sessions and listen to them later. If there's someone that is a hard auditory learner, like I am, I have been in, especially when I was a French major, I would record my classes. I'd ask my professor's permission, but I'd record the classes because, you're taking notes and you're getting information, but listening to it over again helps so much more. Watching videos, create mnemonic devices. I love mnemonic devices. I love using alliteration to remember people's names. Repeat information out loud, study groups. And then for kinesthetic, walk around while you're reviewing your notes. Use a computer, so people typing notes or taking notes, that helps. Like I was saying, stress balls or creating concrete objects to remember things. There was a girl in my high school who was a hardcore kinesthetic learner and also really loved baking. So in all of our classes, she would bake cakes, especially the science classes that resembled what we were learning about. So she made a cake that was the biology of the cell, super in-depth thing, but that was how she studied. Most people aren't like that, but man, our class loved it, I'll tell you that. God bless her. All right, so that is academic determination and study tips. So, moving on to positive perspective.
Okay, in your momentum text in chapter 8, I referenced earlier that there was some information about financial literacy. Okay, so these are some table discussion questions that I would like for you guys to consider. And so take a look at your momentum text. Okay, so with chapter 8, because we didn't bring in an expert to talk with you about financial literacy, we want you to take a look in that book, okay? And so there are 3 questions here. What is self-regulation, and what does it have to do with maintaining a positive perspective? How does maintaining a positive perspective promote holistic wellness? And how does self-regulation relate to financial aid and managing your finances? So if you would, take a look at chapter 8, and then I want you to discuss these questions at your table. I don't think you have to read the whole chapter, but I want to be able to hear back from some of you about how self-regulation, positive perspective, and managing money are related. Okay, go. Pretty random, but it's not actually random, and I'll let you get back to your stimulating conversations about finance in just a moment. But what just came up at one table is that some people were not aware that each student at APU has an assigned account specialist in One Stop. So if students have questions about financial aid, about how to find scholarships, about what in the world is going on with loans and what it's going to look like when you have to pay those back, because you will, you can actually go into One Stop and ask to speak with the account specialist that's assigned to you, and they can sit down with you and help you better understand what's going on with your financial aid. So there you go. In case somebody else didn't know that, I wanted you to know that. Carry on.